Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to answer a question that now I've been asked several times in different comments of other videos. Most recently, the latest gear, studio rack gear update video. I do those every so often as things start to change. You guys seem to like those videos. But one question that keeps getting asked over and over again, which is really cool, is people, as I go by the rack and show everybody the Antelope Galaxy 64, which I upgraded to about 8 months ago or 9 months ago at this point. People keep asking in the comments, hey, what happened to the Presonus Quantums? And hey, Dave, you never really talked about the Presonus Quantums. Why did you buy the Antelope and all of that stuff? And although I have talked about that ad nauseum on our live streams, it seems like every live stream that I do, that question comes up and I talk about it, and I've answered it several times. So you can always go back and watch the live stream videos if you want to know about all the different gear and just all the things that we talk about. But obviously people haven't seen those videos, so they've asked me to make a dedicated video about that. So I thought I would just spend, a few minutes here or so just talking about the Galaxy and why I got rid of the Quantums and why I went to the Galaxy, and then how do I like it and all of that stuff. So first and foremost, people that are asking, that for the last couple of years, I've been using, prior to the Antelope Galaxy 64, I was using the Presonus Quantum 4848s, which are 32 in, 32 out. I had 2 of those. And then I also daisy chained that and tied that together with the Presonus Quantum 2626. Just for the monitor section to hook up the speakers, because the 4848s don't have a monitor section. They're just 32 IO via D sub connectors. I had 2 of those that were daisy chained together with a Thunderbolt 2 cable, I believe. Those were Thunderbolt 2, which gave me 64 IO, which is what this console is. This is 32 long faders, 32 short. Gives me the ability to do 64 IO. So the Presonus Quantums, 2 4848s, so 64 and 64 out, along with the 2626. And I ran those for a couple of years. Prior to that, for about the first 6 months or so that we had this studio, if you go back and watch the earlier videos, you'll know that prior to the Presonus, I had the Universal Audio X16s, and I had 2 of those. Those were 16 in, 16 out. I had 2 of those, which gave me 32 in and out. And then I think I bought a third one right before I sold those, right before I sold the Universal Audio ones, to give me 48 in, 48 out. So I had Universal Audio for about the first 6 or 8 months. Then I got turned on to the Presonus Quantum 4848s, which gave me additional IO with a lot less money. And also you have seen, if you have not, you'll know that we did a bunch of converter shootout videos where we shot out the Universal Audio converters, the sound of the converters to the Presonus Quantums. We didn't really hear any difference at all. So I sold the X16s, got a bunch of money, bought some of the Quantum 4848s, and had a bunch of extra money left over to buy more additional hardware. And that's what I ran for a couple of years. During the time of having those 4848s, we did a whole bunch of converter shootout tests. Again, you can go watch all those videos and you can go learn about what I learned about the whole thing with converters and how do they sound and do they sound different and all of that. Won't spend too much of your time talking about that here specifically. You could go watch those videos. After about 2.5 years, again, and I'm guessing here, it's right around that time of running the Quantum 4848s together with the 2626, they were fine. They sounded great. I love them. They were perfectly fine. They work perfectly. I started to have some problems with one of the clocks, I believe in one of them. Now, the problem with running the 2 4848s and the 2626, 3 audio interfaces, is I didn't have a dedicated clock. I was daisy chaining them together, using them as an aggregate device in my Mac, and then I was using one of the clocks, the 2626 clock, I believe we were using, to sync everything up, and we were starting to have some problems. I was starting to have some different jitter issues and some different issues around those. Now, both of the 4848 units were used. They don't make them anymore, and they didn't make them anymore at the time that I purchased them. I got one that was brand new from Presonus directly, and then one I bought on the secondhand market because you couldn't buy them new anymore. They ran great for a couple of years, but then I was starting to notice I was having an issue with some jittering in the clocking. So I tried getting a dedicated clock. I bought a Black Lion audio clock, and I was using that. I tried to use that along with my Presonus Quantums, thinking if it was just a clocking issue, I would use a dedicated clock. But I believe that clock was like 11 or 1200 bucks, if I remember right. It was expensive. A good clock is not cheap. And that didn't seem to solve my issue. And then a couple of months after that, I was having a problem on one of the deep sub connectors on one of the 4848s. Channels 1 through 8, we're having some weird funky things. So what I'm trying to tell you is, after about 2.5 years of running those Quantums, I was starting to have some issues. And a couple of problems I ran into. Number one, Presonus doesn't make them anymore, and they don't support them. Number two, when I first started using the Quantums, I have had a long-standing relationship with Presonus. They were great people over at my Home Recording Made Easy YouTube channel. I had a long relationship with them, knew a lot of people there, and so we did a lot of work together. Since they were bought out by Fender Music Corporation, most of the people that I know at Presonus have left the company. I don't really have a relationship. I don't have a relationship with them anymore. They've kind of moved on from me. And when I was having issues with these Quantums, I really had nobody over there to reach out to and to talk to see if they could be tested or supported or anything like that. And by that time, the studio has grown with all this gear, and we just really have grown leaps and bounds here. And I was growing at leaps and bounds here, especially doing a lot more private work, a lot more client work, more than just a YouTube channel and training courses, a lot more. And so I was really worried that, okay, I'm starting to have an issue with the 4848s. I don't know anyone at Presonus anymore. I don't have any relationship with anybody there anymore. They don't make these anymore. They don't support them. I couldn't even find another one to swap one out to try to get another unit in here. They're just hard to deal with because they don't make them. And so I thought, geez, that's really one of my vulnerable ish spots, or one of my places in my studio where I'm very vulnerable, that if it goes down completely, I'm really screwed. I don't really have a way to get these things taken care of, supported. I can't have Sweetwater just send me a new one. Like I just said, they don't make them. So I said, you know what? Based on all of that, maybe it's time to upgrade to something else, or to go into another, to another, not necessarily another product, but upgrade my 4848s. And what would I upgrade them to? They just released the brand new Quantum series, Presonus did, and they replaced all of their Quantum interfaces except for the 4848. And for what I've been told, there's really no plans to upgrade that product. So I couldn't go get the newest version of the Quantum interface where they were brand new and supported with a warranty, and I can get replacements and all of that. So I felt like, okay, well, I really got to leave the Presonus interface family, because I have a couple of criterias. Number one, I got to have something that has enough I/O. And I need something that's still out in the marketplace, being made and can be supported and all of that, because this is a commercial business and I need to be able to have support around my I/O. So that had me start to look for another interface. Okay. And so I started to look around, and I said, okay, well, what are my needs? My needs are, I want 64 I/O. I don't use all 64 I/O. 80% of the time I use only 32. The other 20% of the time I'll go up to 40, 48. I typically never go over 48. However, because I have 64 I/O, I wanted to buy an audio interface that had the 64 I/O, so if I needed it in the future, I can have it. I also wanted to make sure that I bought something. I was looking to find something where I didn't have to have multiple interfaces daisy chained together and then get an external clock or all of that stuff. I wanted to try to get everything in one box that had the clocking all in one box, had all 64 I/O in one box if possible, and again, something that was supported and was within a certain price bracket. So as I started to look around, and as I was doing live streams talking about this issue, a lot of the people watching this video, a lot of my followers kept saying to me, why don't you check out the Antelope products? Specifically the Antelope Orion products, which makes a 32 I/O box, which means I would only need 2 of them. And I would get back to the whole thing with, do I need a separate clock and all of that? But I started to look at the Orion stuff because a lot of people had recommended it. there's only a few companies on the market that make a 32 IO interface. There's only a few of them. I think Apogee was one of them. Antelope was one of them. I don't even think RME was one of them at the time I looked. And at the time that I was looking, the most you can get through RME was, or Lynx, I believe was 16. I think I might have even looked at Lynx as well. I don't remember all the model numbers. And again, things have changed so much in the last year since I've bought this, or 9 months, that I know the products are different. But in order to get what I was kind of looking for, you were looking really at two companies, Apogee and Antelope. Now, Apogee at the time, and I don't know if this has changed, the largest unit you can get was 32 IO. So I would have needed two of those. Each one of those was like 11,000 bucks or 10,000 bucks, which is kind of really out of my price range. I was going from the Quantum 4848s, which were only like 1,500, 1,800 bucks a piece, and I had two of them. So I was going like, you know, $4,000 to $5,000 budget or $4,000 budget. I knew I was going to spend more money, but I didn't want to go from $4,000-ish to $20,000. That was just out of my budget, to be totally honest. So again, I went back to the Antelope and looked at the Orion 32s. And at that time, those were about $3,000 a piece, maybe 3,200 a piece. So if I had to get two of those, that would have been 6,400 bucks. And I said, okay, that's, you know, again, that's more than the Presonus Quantums. I knew they would be. I knew nothing was going to be at the price point of those Quantums, not for 64 IO. So I said, okay, let me take a look at those. So because of a lot of you recommended it. So I called up my friends over at Vintage King, because Sweetwater doesn't carry Antelope. And I bought a lot of other stuff at Vintage King in the past. I bought my original Trinoff from Vintage King. I bought my AudioLabs stuff from Vintage King. I bought my Master Bus Transformer, the Neve, from Vintage King. I had a good working relationship with them. And we were talking about the Orion. The sales guy that I work with there at Vintage King actually has an Orion 32. And I was talking to him about that. And there were a couple of things that I was concerned about. One was, again, if I take two 32 Orion 32s and put them together, do I need a separate clock? And number two, at the time, the Orion 32 only went up to a 512 sample rate, or 512 block size, buffer size on the unit, where that kind of concerned me. I wanted something that went higher to 1024, I think it is, if I could. At the time, the Orion 32s didn't do that. So when I was talking to, and again, not that that was an absolute necessity, but that's something would concern me, that once you got the 512, if you needed to go more than that, you couldn't. At least at the time that I was buying this thing. I think things have changed at this point in some of the firmware and stuff. I'm not clear on that 100%, but I think that might be true. Anyway, I was talking to my sales guy at Vintage King, and he had said to me, well, have you considered the Galaxy line by Antelope? And I said, well, I looked at him. He said, what about the Galaxy 64? And I looked at it, I said, yeah, but this is like $12,000. It's double the price of the two Orion 32s. And he said, well, you know, the Galaxy line, again, he says they have a better clock in them. They have the highest end converters that they make. They're a step up above the Orions. Not that the Orions are not any good, but again, you're getting the highest grade stuff that they make. Plus, he said he happened to have a demo unit that they used in the showroom at Vintage King that he could sell me. And he could sell it to me, I forget what the percentage was, but it was like knocking like $4,000 off the price of the unit. So what started at about a $12,000 unit went down to about an $8,000 unit. And he was going to give me a full 4-year warranty on it, like a brand new unit. 2 years from the company, 2 years additional from Vintage King. Kind of similar to what Sweetwater does. Great warranty plan. And I said, wow, okay, so that's still around $8,000. That's a little more than the Orions, but what I get in the Galaxy 64, I get supposedly better clocking, better converters, and I get a 4-year warranty, and I get all 64 IO in one box, which means I don't need 2 units. I don't need an additional clock. I don't have to worry about that whole daisy chain together, an aggregate device. Everything is self-contained. The other thing I liked about the Galaxy 64, they have some additional features in it that I'm not using right now, but I was thinking if I'm going to spend this much money, I want to have something I'm going to future-proof myself from an IO perspective for at least the next 5 years plus, maybe longer, hopefully. So what this allows me to do, if I ever wanted to get into surround and Dolby, this can be, I don't need to, you know, replace this. This can be expanded upon for a Dolby Atmos system if that's what I wanted to do down the road. I have no plans to do that, but maybe at one point. This also has all the Pro Tools HDX stuff in it that, again, I'm not a Pro Tools user. For mixing, I'm a Studio One user. However, in recent months, I've been starting to work with producers that use Pro Tools, and although they're sending me WAV files and allowing, you know, don't have a problem that I'm mixing in Studio One, one has mentioned that it would be nice to just be able to send me this session and be able to work inside of Pro Tools. So I don't know that's something I'm going to do right now, but that's something that may occur, that if I start working with more and more people in the industry, Pro Tools is still the industry standard. If I had to use Pro Tools from time to time, I own Pro Tools. I could do it with this. So there were some additional features on this unit, this Galaxy 64, that wasn't going to be a part of the Orion series that I could grow into if needed. And I was getting such a big discount. So I said, okay, I'll go up to the $8,000-ish mark. It's a business investment. I'll go ahead and I'll do it. 4-year warranty. Let's try it. Now, I will say that one of the things that I was hesitant about the Antelope series, and I've talked about this on the live stream, was in the past, apparently, they've had nightmares with their software integration. And the software, I've heard, was very buggy, was very problematic. Now, again, this is going back a handful of years, and they've had a lot of disappointed customers because of it. And I've heard many, many complaints about it. Believe me, many. But I was told that their whole software architecture was rebuilt in all these new series of interfaces, including the Galaxy. That isn't a problem anymore. A lot of that stuff has been fixed. They rebuilt the interface, they rebuilt the software, and all that stuff. So I felt a little bit more comfortable with that. The other thing that I was told from Vintage King, and I did experience this firsthand, so I can confirm this, which I'll talk about in a second, which is that Antelope has wonderful tech support. More than just email support. You can actually get somebody live on the phone during business hours, 5 days a week, very quickly, and they can help you if you're having any kinds of issues, which was really important because that was something that I could not get from Presonus anymore once they were bought out by Fender, and all those people that I used to be in contact with were all gone. That I was going to be able to get hands-on tech support. And also my sales guy at Vintage King uses the Orion products, uses the Antelope products, and is very, very well versed in them. And he said, Dave, I'll be able to help you if you have any issues as well. Don't be fearful with the software. I'll be able to help you out, no problem. So I felt like going to the Antelope at least to try it. I had support with Antelope. I was told, in that my sales guy, his name is Alex, by the way, if Alex ever sees this, thank you, Alex, over in the Nashville store over in down in Nashville at Vintage King. So I felt comfortable that because those two resources would be available to me, that I wouldn't have to worry so much about the software. Plus, I got a lot of you guys that recommended the Antelope products, you know, at the beginning when I was talking about this through our different live streams, asking for recommendations before I bought this product. A lot of you guys had said to me, look, I've had this thing for years. I don't have any problems, Dave. You're not going to have any problems. We're here to help you if you have any issues. So I felt really comfortable between the support of my followers on this channel, between Vintage King, Alex, and between Antelope, the company themselves, that if there were any kind of technical hiccups along the way, or I needed some training, that I had plenty of resources out there, which was huge for me. So I decided to go with the Galaxy 64. I got a great price on it. The support seemed to be there. A lot of you guys recommended Antelope, and it was really the only interface that was out there that had the amount of I/O that I wanted, all in one box at a reasonable price point that wasn't going $20,000+ when you get into the Apogee stuff, which was just too far outside of my price range. I didn't feel like I needed to spend that much money. So that's why I upgraded to the Galaxy 64. That's how I kind of stumbled on it, was through you and through all the things I just talked about. And again, I did it because I was starting to have a problem with the Quantums. When the Quantums were working, they were great. I wish they would they would rebuild that 4848, release a new version of it, but they're not going to, from what I'm told. So that's that. Now, since I've had the Galaxy 64, I've had it about, as I sit here and record this video, probably 8 or 9. I think I bought it in the beginning of, between January and February 2024, and I'm sitting here recording this video at the end of August 2024, so about 8 months, let's just say. And I will say, I haven't had a single problem with it. I will also tell you that the way I have this set up, I'm not even using their software. When I first got this thing installed, and I'm running this on a Mac, and I'm running this with Ventura, the OS, there was a slight problem getting, when I first tried to install it, getting the software, the unit, to be recognized by the software. So I tested out Antelope's tech support, went on their website, got the 1-800 number. In less than a day, they emailed me back, scheduled a phone call, called me on the phone, their tech support. I downloaded their team viewer, team viewer, so they can log into my computer. They logged into my computer and in, I don't know, 4 minutes, had it recognized. The problem was, just so you know, it really wasn't their software. It was the Mac OS. There's all kinds of security stuff and things you got to do. You gotta unlock all the permissions to allow the software to be recognized. This is what happens with the Mac OS, especially as the newer ones come out. There's so much security on there that you got to unlock everything so it'll recognize the software. Once we did that and he walked me through it and I rebooted the computer, it instantly saw it. We downloaded all the drivers, everything that needed to be done, and within 5 minutes it was running. And he helped me set it up, and I'm looking at the screen now, and maybe I'll put it up on the screen if you want to see the software. And I will say, once we set this up, I never open it, I never use it. I don't use all the flexible routing capabilities and all the plugins and everything in here, because I don't need it for what I do. I'm not a recording studio. I don't track on this thing. I just mix. This is just a vehicle to get 64 IO out of my DAW through my hardware and back into the DAW on a print track. So I don't need all the different things that this thing can do. And I will be honest, because I don't work with this very much, when I first looked at this software, it's overwhelming to me. I know a lot of you watching this video and people that have experience with their software seems that it's no problem. And I'm sure if I got a chance and had to use it and needed to take advantage of all their all the flexibility here, I'm sure I can learn it. I'm not a dummy. I can learn this stuff, but it is a little overwhelming if you're not used to it, and you have to get used to it. But again, I will say, the Antelope's tech support was great. They'll log right in, they'll take you through it. They got a bunch of videos on their website on how to use it. Anyhow, so here's their software. Basically, it's set up, and I just don't use it. I don't even open. I'm only opening it to show it to you, where you have all different things you can do. You have different ways you can look at this, routing, the mixer. Again, it has Pro Tools HDX if you get into that. This also has Dante built in, which I don't use, but again, it was another feature that down the road, who knows? It's got all the Dante stuff in there as well. All the effects where you can record if you wanted to through their plugins, kind of like the Unison technology for Universal Audio, similar concept. I don't use any of that, but it's got surround. It's got everything built into this software. Again, way more than I will ever use, at least for now, but I know that I have something I could grow into if I need to, and I can learn this software if I really, really needed to. But once it was set up, I don't use it. It just kind of sits there. Every so often there's a firmware update. I update the firmware and everything just seems to work. Now, again, people have asked me a bunch of times, and again, I did not do a converter sound test between this and the Presonus Quantums, because at the time I needed to get the old ones out, get the new thing in, get the new system up and running, because I had other client projects I needed to work on. So I didn't need to do that, and I didn't feel like I needed to do that, because to be totally honest, after all the converter sound demos that we've done with all the different brands out there, to me, the converters in this thing don't sound, at least I don't notice any difference in sound between this and the Quantums or all the other converters that we've tested on this channel. And I wasn't buying it because it was a better converter, not at all. I'm told these have, top quality converters in them. I'm sure they do. They sound great to me. But the one thing I did notice about this unit right away, which I really liked, it's got way more headroom on the converters in and out. than the Presonus Quantums did. I've always had to worry about not clipping the converter on the way in, on the way out, because on the Presonus Quantum, it wasn't a pleasing sound when you clip the converters. It wasn't a big deal, but I just had to manage that. This I don't have to. I have no running out of headroom as far as being able to use this with the Galaxy 64. So clipping converters and that stuff on this is not a problem at all, on the way in and around the way out. So to me, it sounds great. Does it sound any better than the Quantums? I wouldn't say it sounds any better, but there is a lot more headroom. That much I will tell you. It's got way more power in this unit as far as all the flexibility with the software and all the different features. Like I said, a lot of them that I'm not using today, but could be in the future. And it was all self-contained in one box. And that's why I bought it. And the biggest thing is, it's still in production. It's Antelope's flagship piece. You can still get parts for it. It's got a 4-year warranty or a 3.5-year warranty at this point. And the biggest thing was the tech support. If I need help, I could call these guys up. I can get on the phone with them within 24 hours. And if they need to log into my system and help me, they'll do that. And I gotta say, working with all the different companies that I work with, both on this channel and over at my Home Recording Made Easy YouTube channel, there are very few companies where you have that level of tech support, where you can actually get someone on the phone that day or within one business day, and that they'll get into your system and help you if they need to help you. That is something you don't find unless you have a real inside track. An average consumer can't get that from most companies. I know there's companies out there that do it, but I can tell you a lot of the companies that I work with, you can't get that. Now, some of the companies I work with, I can personally get that because I have working relationship with them. I do demos for them. We've done exchanged gear for services and things like that. So I kind of have an inside track, but you as the average consumer who doesn't have that relationship would have a hard time with most companies to get that level of tech support. There are a few out there that do it. But I can say and can confirm that Antelope definitely has that. And I don't have a business relationship with Antelope. I'm not sponsored by them. They didn't give this to me. Like I said, I paid for this. I bought it from Vintage King just like you would. Yes, I got a discount on it because it was a demo unit. But aside from that, I have no different relationship with Antelope than you would buying it. So I will say their tech support was fantastic. And I do appreciate that. So if Antelope watches this one day, or the tech support people over there ever see this, thank you so much. I hope you continue with that level of support, because now I feel way more comfortable recommending your products to my followers. So that's kind of the semi-short story for people that want to know why I got rid of the Quantums, why I got the Galaxy 64 and all of the different circumstances behind it. If you have any more questions specifically, leave them in the comments below. I'd be glad to try to answer them any way I can. As far as doing a demo of the Galaxy, a sound demo, it really doesn't make any sense over YouTube. I don't know what you would hear unless I was going to compare it to something else, and I'm not going to do that. I can just tell you they do sound good, and the headroom is great, and the flexibility is really good, and the support's really good. And that's all I need. As a matter of fact, I don't even think about the Galaxy. It just kind of sits in the background and I don't have to worry about it. When I'm working, it's the piece of gear I don't ever have to think about. And that's kind of what I want from my I/O. I don't want to think about it. I just want it to work, and it just works. And I'm happy with it. So for everyone that asked those questions in the other comment sections of the other videos, that's why I'm using the Galaxy 64. So any other questions? Leave them in the comments below. Again, I thank you so much for your support. Make sure you check out mixingmusicanalog.com. Check the links in the description box of the training courses and the mixing hybrid courses and all of that. And go back and watch some of the live streams. We got all the live streams are on the channel. Go check them out. We had some really cool conversations. I do about one of those a month where we get on here and we just kind of chat and you guys ask a bunch of questions and we talk about gear, we talk about converters, we talk about hardware, we talk about all that stuff at great length, and we share lots of opinions and stuff together amongst in the chat and stuff. So if you want to learn more about the stuff I have and why I use it and all that, go check out the live streams. And until the next video, I've been Dave with Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com. Thank you so much for watching me, everybody, and I'll see you guys in the next video.